Like many characters in Dune, Alia's story was a tragedy, maybe the most tragic one. Hers was a story about a woman predestined to destroy herself. Through a number of factors well outside of her control, Alia was doomed from the start. Her mother's choices made her an abomination, and she spent her entire life battling the consequences, isolated, unloved, and despised. And at the end of all of this, she chose to end her own life. After all, Princess Irulan was right. As with all abominations, the only cure was death. To really understand Alia and her suffering, we need to understand what it means to be an abomination. In the books, Lady Jessica undergoes a painful transformation. While she's pregnant with Alia, she drinks the poisonous water of life. By doing this, she awakens her ancestral memories, but also forces her unborn child to share the same mind-bending experience. This ritual is actually extremely dangerous, and it is something you would only try if you're mentally prepared after years of training. But Alia goes through it while she's still in the womb, at her most vulnerable. Not only does she gain consciousness, but she's also exposed to her ancestors' memories before forming her own identity. The Bene Gesserit call these children abominations and fear them for a reason. That's because when a child is born with ancestral memories, they also at risk of being possessed by a powerful one. So from the moment she is born, Alia is different. People around her are filled with awe and fear because even as an infant, she can talk and her words dripping with knowledge far beyond her years. Even at the age of 2, she allows herself to be captured by the Sardaukar and brought before the Emperor. Despite her age, Alia shocks him with her composure and wit. She even invades the Reverend Mother Mohiam's mind. Mohiam calls her an abomination and demands she should be killed immediately. But the Emperor has other plans. He wants to scare her into revealing where his brother is hiding. But when Baron Harkonnen tries to seize her, Alia kills him with a Gom Jabbar. Then she flees onto the battlefield and finishes off the wounded Harkonnen soldiers with a crysknife. That's how she earns the name Saint Alia of the Knife. After the 12-year time jump between the first and second books, Alia's influence among the Fremen grows significantly. Paul becomes the Emperor, and she rises to an almost goddess-like figure, because with her extraordinary birth and actions, Alia's very existence is another testament to Paul's destiny as Messiah. To the Fremen, she is a saint, Saint Alia of the Knife, the womb of heaven. She can calm storms, kill her enemies with a glance, and punish non-believers. But beneath her seemingly holy status, she is a woman of contradictions. Thrust into a role she never asked for, she never has the chance to discover who she truly is. They offer her worship and fear, but all she desires is something else: love. In the midst of this turmoil, Alia falls in love with Duncan Idaho's Gula. But as the love grows inside her, she still can't shake off her conflicts. On one hand, she feels weighed down by the roles forced upon her, and on the other, she fears the possibility of becoming an abomination. And at the end of Book 2, in a poignant scene, Alia finally confides in Duncan. "I wish I could burn this thing out of me," she says, "but I'm sister to an emperor who's worshipped as a god. People fear me. I never wanted to be feared. I don't want to be part of history. I just want to be loved and love." This scene stands out as a pivotal moment in understanding Alia's character and offers us a glimpse into the conflicts that plague her mind. For a moment, the epic scale of Dune fades away, and all we see is this young girl struggling with addiction and can't figure out who she really is. From this point on, we know this girl who's already fighting herself is going to be even more vulnerable. She'll lose people she loves, and the memories of those ancestors will only keep getting stronger. With the third book, Jessica leaves her. She returns to Caladan, and Duncan, with his old memories restored, becomes a stranger. On the other hand, even if Princess Irulan technically stands by her, Alia feels no true connection with her. And after Paul disappears into the desert, Alia is left utterly alone. Now she's not only battling her struggles, but also burdened with ruling the Empire and caring for Paul's children. She has no one to turn to, no one to show her the way. Isolated and alone, Alia desperately seeks for help in her mother's awareness within her. The woman had been her world, but now she is gone, and even her inner voice seems to sneer at Alia's choices. So Alia turns to the voices of her other ancestors, hoping for guidance. But this is where she loses her grip entirely. Her vulnerability lays her bare, and one ancestor seizes the opportunity: the vile Baron Harkonnen. His desire for revenge echoes from beyond the grave. As Alia struggles to keep herself together, her sanity begins to slip away, and she becomes more and more influenced by the Baron. But instead of getting the help she needs, the changed Duncan Idaho distances himself from her. Meanwhile, her actions become increasingly horrifying and merciless, especially towards those she sees as her enemies. Under the Baron's control, she turns into a tyrant. Over time, Alia's disturbing thoughts lead her to plan terrible things. killing her own mother, Jessica, and Duncan. She even attempts to assassinate Paul's son, Leto, but Leto escapes her trap and disappears into the desert. And this is where Alia truly becomes the villain in the eyes of many. The people she once loved turn against her, and even we, as the readers, start to question her motives. But is this the fate Alia truly wants? In fact, after Duncan's death, Alia's internal struggle against possession comes through in her thoughts. As she cries for him, Baron Harkonnen's voice cruelly mocks her grief. Even in her grief, she finds no escape. At that moment, she thinks that she has become two people. One part is a poisonous, hateful memory. The other is a young girl, helplessly witnesses her own downfall. Only then, we realize that there's no way out for Alia. Her story can only end in madness or death. By the end of the third book, Alia has been through hell. She is all alone, desperate to keep her power, and the Baron's influence only makes it worse. In a climatic scene, she confronts her mother, learns Paul is alive as the preacher, and finally faces Leto. But it's too much. She wants to lash out, to destroy them all, but there's also this scared part of her that just wants someone to save her. But the help never comes. In her final moments, Alia fights desperately against the Baron's control, but she can't escape from it. She turns to her mother, her eyes filled with hope, and asks for help. But Leto senses her desperation, and he nods towards the open window. "Help yourself," he says. It's almost like a veiled ultimatum, a last chance for Alia to choose her own fate before she loses herself completely. As Leto gazes into her eyes, he sees not the young woman he once knew, but a shattered reflection of her former self consumed by despair. At that moment, Alia decides. As the Baron's shouts fade behind her, she reaches the window and throws herself out. There's no scream as she falls, just the noise of the crowd she left behind. In the end, Alia's death was a heartbreaking act of desperation, her only escape from the tormenting voice inside her head. And the saddest part is that, like many characters in Dune, her fate seemed inevitable. Perhaps she could have been saved if she weren't left alone to face her inner demons, but those around her failed to give her the love she needed. While Paul and Duncan showed her compassion, the others only pitied her. Even her followers never truly loved her for who she was, but rather the idea of her. They revered her, feared her, even prayed to her, but no one truly knew her. They saw her as an icon, and they were blind to the desperate girl within. And after her death, people believed in her remains and formed a cult around her. But as she always had been, she was a religious tool for others. Yet even that faith disappeared with the passage of millennia, leaving behind only the echo of a tragic life. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a comment, give a like, and click to subscribe. Your support will greatly help the mysterious algorithm notices me. And if you want to support me personally, you can join the channel by using the join button. See you next time.